Here we go.
We live. We are live.
There we go. We're live.
You ready to drop some truth bombs?
Yeah, with some delay. Man,
Are you? What's delayed?
Just my computer's slow. I've got a 10-year-old MacBook, which is why my mic is always out. But I'm good.
Oh, okay. You seem good right now. We're 5
Yeah.
minutes late. Is that what you meant by the delay?
Yeah.
Oh no,
I should hit the live button, but yeah.
We're on CP time here. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I have this weird construct that tells me things should start on time.
You didn't get that memo?
Yeah.
You didn't get the memo from the company, company HQ, that we operate on CP time.
Have we become doged? Are we downsizing and things are slowing down?
Do you know who coined the term CP time?
Was it Richard Pryor or somebody like that, or who was it?
He called it colored people time. He said it's colored. He said because colored people are late often. Mm-hmm. It was Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh wow!
How about that?
Yeah.
He said a lot of things about Black people that were not complimentary. Let's just say. But that's for another time. Tonight we got to talk about Venezuelans.
Okay.
And I know you're all for burning the Bill of Rights, and rounding up whoever the president doesn't like and putting them on airplanes and sending them to labor prison camps in other third world countries indefinitely with no due process. I know you're down with that, but I think we should talk through it. Well,
okay. I should double down on this early.
Oh,
but,
shit.
I will say the things have been improving in El Salvador, and
True.
The violent gang members. I mean, yeah, there's the obvious good news that the murder rate is down and that it's a livable place for the first time. Like the people who live there are the people who live in El Salvador are very happy for the maximum prisons and the loss of civil liberties.
Well, I mean, I'm sure a lot of them are. I don't think all of them are, but yes.
Well, the ones that are walking freely in the streets are.
A lot are. A lot are.
Yeah, a lot of young men who have a shaved head and a tattoo might not. But besides that, they are getting training. These prisoners are getting training, and they are being put to public works programs and for good behavior and training. Fantastic. They are starting to release some of these prisoners with job skills back into the world.
So you're talking about the Salvadoran prisons before Trump sent these Venezuelan people there. You're talking about the status.
Yeah, just the status of these prisons in recent years.
How wonderful the Bukele prisons have been in reducing crime radically, which they have, thereby improving the standard of living in El Salvador dramatically, which they have, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly believe it. Having lived in New York City under Giuliani in the 1990s, and I saw a similar transformation, actually. It required locking up thousands and thousands of people. But yes. Now, the thing is, I mean, I also am aware that there are many people in El Salvador whose family members or friends were locked up in the raids conducted by Bukele's forces, which also, by the way, were operated with, I think, virtually no due process whatsoever. if the cops in El Salvador believed that you were a member of MS-13, they could grab you and throw you in one of those prisons. I am sure the majority, maybe the vast majority of those guys in those prisons are in fact horrendous gangbangers who have killed people. But it's also pretty clear that there are a lot of people who are in those prisons who are not, or at least not to the degree that warrants putting them in prison for life, especially that kind of prison, which is, as far as I can tell, maybe the worst place on earth to be, a Salvadoran prison right now. So here's the thing, man. This shit is fucking outrageous. Sorry. It is and I've listened to all the arguments. On all sides, I've listened to the arguments and read the arguments, the best arguments. And Sean Davis, by the way, of the Federalist, I think offers the most powerful argument, but even he's wrong. So yeah, wow, it's amazing. And we're going to find out soon. I think we've already been finding out that several of these guys had nothing to do with gangs in Venezuela or any gang at all, and simply had a tattoo in the wrong place on their body. And by the way, Tren de Aragua, as I understand it, it's one of the gangs in Latin America that actually shuns tattoos. They think it's a bad idea because they're actually intelligent. They think it's a bad idea to have tattoos on your face or neck because it's obviously identifiable immediately to the authorities, something MS-13 learned the hard way. There are reports, I don't know if they're true, but I've heard, from pretty credible sources that there was a guy from, I think, Houston, who was I think a gay hairstylist who had a tattoo on his neck. And based on that, ICE took him in, and he's now doing hard labor in a Salvadoran prison. So we all know, this is not contested, that there was zero due process, that Trump and I guess the Secretary of State determined and announced, that these people were illegal immigrants. We don't know that. They haven't shown us any evidence. We don't even know who they are, by the way. They have not released the names. Okay. So they could have been perfectly legal immigrants. They could even be full US citizens. I have no idea. Trump simply says these guys are Tren de Aragua, and that's it, with not telling us who they are, what the evidence is for that at all, which means that very clearly, according to that standard, at any moment, any number of perfectly legal, innocent people can be snatched up by federal agencies and sent to a foreign prison. Number two, to allow himself to apply the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which is the law he invoked, part of the notorious Alien and Sedition Acts, all of which were tossed out, struck down by the courts, except for this piece of it, which is called the Alien Enemies Act. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798, please everybody go look it up. It gives the president the power to deport any citizen of an enemy nation during war with the enemy nation. Very clear. A citizen of the enemy nation during war with the enemy nation. Okay, so it was used first in the 1812 war by James Madison. James Madison had several British nationals living in America thrown in prison or deported under the Alien Enemies Act. The second time it was used was by Woodrow Wilson in 1918, when he began to deport citizens living in the United States, citizens of the Central Powers, the Axis in World War I, Germany, Austro-Hungary, etc., etc. Because we were formally at war, both in 1812 with the British and in 1917 and 18 and 19, of course, with the Central Powers. We were formally at war. A declaration of war was made by Congress. And so the Alien Enemies Act therefore applies in those moments, even though I'm opposed to those wars and I'm opposed to the whole thing. But according to the law of the United States of America, that's totally legitimate, those uses of it. It was then used again the next time in 1942 by Franklin Roosevelt in rounding up and interning all people, US citizens and not, of Japanese descent. The last time before Trump that the Alien Enemies Act was invoked by a president was in 1947, but this was a sort of marginal case. It was a German guy who was an active supporter of the Nazi regime of Adolf Hitler, who was arrested in 1941, immediately, or 42, 41, I think, 41, immediately after, or 42, immediately after Roosevelt invoked the act, because of course Germany was at war formally with the United States. So that was, according to the law, legitimate for Roosevelt to do that. He was put in a prison at the beginning of the war for being not just a resident, a citizen of Germany, which he was, but an active public supporter of Hitler and the enemy regime. After the war, he was still, I think they tried to deport him, or they were still incarcerating him. I forget what it was, but there was still state action against him. And he filed suit to be released. And the Supreme Court ruled that he was still considered to be an enemy combatant relevant to this law. But that makes sense still, because again, he was incarcerated, he was punished according to the law when Germany was very much a formal enemy of the United States. He was very much a citizen of Germany and a formal ally of the enemy government. And so the Supreme Court said it still applies even after the cessation of war, if the person was first incarcerated based on being an ally of an enemy combatant, because they considered him to be still a threat to national security because he had those allegiances just recently. So none of these things apply to these Venezuelan guys who we have now all seen being frog marched into essentially a torture camp in El Salvador. I mean, we've all seen videos of those prisons that Bukele just built, and we know from many, many accounts what goes on there. It's a labor camp. They do hard labor, forced hard labor every single day. And these guys are in there, according to the Salvadoran authorities, for a minimum of 1 year, unless an international movement rises up and releases them. I think they'll be in there for a lot longer than that.
Well,
and so, okay. So there is no war with Venezuela. There is no war with Tren de Aragua, not by law, clearly. Tren de Aragua is not a nation state. It is not an army. It's not a military. Yes, it's been designated, I think just by Trump just recently as a terrorist organization. But that was Trump who did that. And that's the pretext for doing this, with zero due process. And again, we have no idea. They refused, Caroline Leavitt, I think just today in the press briefing, refused to release any information about any of these men. We don't know their names. We don't know their ages. We don't know anything. We don't even know if they're Venezuelan. We don't know. We've just seen pictures of them, and it's been announced that they've been sent to this prison in El Salvador because Bukele, by the way, the Salvadoran government paid $6 million to the United States to do this. They're like outsourcing their incarceration regime to the Trump administration. So, if Trump decides that you're a terrorist living inside the United States, you might very well end up in Bukele's prisons. So there's no active war. There is no declaration of war. There is no, in fact, in any significant way, clearly no war with Venezuela or this gang. Trump will concoct things. MAGA will concoct things. Oh, these are bad, super bad guys, terrible guys, and maybe fentanyl, they'll say, and they don't even say that. They just say they're very bad guys. Okay, so there's zero legitimate use of the Alien Enemies Act, which is a terrible law to begin with, but there's none in this case. They have no basis for that. And and so we are left with simply believing that Trump is telling the truth, that the State Department's telling the truth, that ICE is telling the truth. Also, by the way, do we know that any of these men were members of any gang? And if so, even if they were members of Tren de Aragua, this gang we just all heard about last week, by the way, what is the evidence that any of them have committed any crime at all anywhere in the world? None. Now, again, I believe, it's believable that many of them, maybe most of them, are in fact really bad guys and really members of this terrible gang. I don't know. But the thing is, no one knows because they refuse to release the evidence. So, guys, all of this says that Trump could literally round up Michael Weimer in Indiana and send him to a prison in El Salvador, and you would be in that prison before you would even have the chance or the ability to present your papers showing that you were born inside the United States. Wait, no, that's exactly what happened. These guys were inside that prison before they had the opportunity. They were never allowed to show their papers. If they had a U.S. passport, they weren't allowed to do that, to show it. If they were legal migrants, if they had a green card, they weren't allowed to. We don't even know their names.
We don't know anything.
Right.
I think we're assuming a lot here. We don't know what these busts look like necessarily. But okay. I don't know. I mean, I hate to sound crazy and dismissive here, but all we see is a highly produced video by the El Salvadorian government of a bunch of young men hopping off of a bus and going into a prison. Like, yeah, these could be actors for all we know. Like, what this accomplishes.
You're going really deep now. Okay.
Yeah.
This whole thing is a setup or something?
I'm just saying, as far as that's the only evidence we have. Like, just the hard evidence is that.
Well, the federal government announcing that they just did this. I mean, that's evidence.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, but So, I mean, my two defenses of this are one, deportations.
They're brown.
Well, no.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, that was
And the second is that they're brown.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. What?
Deportations under Trump have been level with previous administrations, and this has
amazing, right?
Yeah. And this has been a concern amongst the people, the overwhelming popular support he has, that he was voted in to bring in tens of millions of deportations. You know, the people who voted for him want to see those numbers skyrocket. They don't want to see the tens of thousands a week or a month that we normally get.
And Tom Homan promised, didn't he promise 20 million?
Yeah, he promised.
Which we don't even know. No one knows how many illegal immigrants there are in the United States, but the Trump people, they put it at about 20 million.
Yeah.
And so I believe I heard Tom Homan promise that he was going to deport 20 million people. This is Trump's border czar, who, by the way, is he, like, was it a car accident or what head injury resulted in that intellect? Well, what's just banged in the head real bad, like once, or I mean, baseball bat, like accident. I got hit by a backswing during a baseball game once. I was going up to the plate, and the batter before me just like swung all the way around and hit me. Maybe something like that, just bang, like real out of the blue. You never know. Maybe you know what it was? Oh no, I know what it was. It was an illegal immigrant. Just walked up to dude and smashed him in the head, gave him that brain damage, and that's why he's so mad at them. But the problem is he can't really speak clearly or in a linear fashion, and
It's always the personal insults.
Law,
it's always the personal insults. Always the ad hominems. Always the projection.
No,
the reading into people. Never taking them at what they say on face value.
It's that I'm scared that the immigration czar is so butt ignorant and stupid that he could literally think that you or I are illegal alien enemies of the state. I mean, why not? He could come up with me, hey, and get us on a plane before we have a chance to show our papers. I mean, why not? Again, how do you know that these 238 guys, none of them is a U.S. citizen, none of them is a legal migrant? How do you know that? We have no idea. Do you
have no idea. Yeah.
Right.
But that door swings both ways. That door swings both ways. Maybe they are all criminals. Maybe they are all criminal illegal aliens guilty of murder. And maybe the DOJ has better intelligence than we have, and they're waiting to release that to make they're waiting to release that intelligence to make us all look stupid for criticizing him. Maybe that's the card they're playing. We don't know either way.
And would that be good with you?
Well, I think my opinion doesn't matter here at all. What I'm trying to bring up here is
you're a national media figure. What do you mean it doesn't matter?
I'm an objective reporter. That's all I am. I'm just an objective news person. I'm your Walter Cronkite. If that,
just the facts. Just the facts. So long as they impugn black people. Yeah, but go ahead.
Again with the ad hominems and the. I want to get to that.
I meant Ann Browns. Ann Browns. That was unfair.
I want to get to that in relation.
You cast a. Go ahead.
With the Tesla vandalism story, which is also very, very illustrative. Who
are you going to blame for that?
Well,
wait, hold on. Well, you know damn well the people who did that to Elon Musk's Tesla showrooms are white.
Yes, yeah.
Guaranteed they're white.
The whitest of the whites, yeah. But
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But in this story, there's two things I think are relevant for broader context. One, Trump promised a large increase in deportations, and he hasn't been able to accomplish that yet with the bureaucracy. And he's been frustrated by it. And two, Nayib Bukele is the most popular leader in the world amongst his own people. He has the highest approval rating. It's in the 90s percentile. Whenever this comes out. Yeah, he is the most popular leader amongst his own people in the world. You know who number two is?
Mussolini.
Vladimir Putin, the guy who pays our bills.
Oh,
yeah.
Dang. Right. You mean
80%? Yeah, our bills personally. Yeah. He's at 80%.
Which he could work on a little bit. I'm just saying, hey, Vlad, just pump it up a little bit. We've been doing our work for you, bro. 3 years now, we've been doing your work for you, and we're not living large over here.
And what I'm saying
is at least send vodka. We haven't gotten a single bottle of Stoli this whole time.
Our government has always been cruel. The kids in cages started under Obama. They continued under Biden. Obama was a deporter in chief. There are plenty of civil rights violations you can look at, but once again, as I've been saying earlier, what we have now is a much healthier form of fascism under Trump, where
that's the most. By the way, that is still. I think about that every day. That is still to me the most brilliant and important and best interpretation and analysis of what's going on in American politics. I swear to God, I just love that. It's so it's a normative claim because you're saying better, but to identify it as such and then to also choose the one and still know it as fascism, dude, I mean, you deserve some kind of prize for that. Yeah. I don't know. It won't be the Nobel Prize. It won't be the Pulitzer Prize for sure, but it'll be some kind of prize maybe that they give out in, Belgrade or somewhere in Hungary.
So the U.S. government has always behaved in this way, and it's been swept under the rug for political reasons. Trump is now trying to make as big of a public show as possible of a relatively small scale deportation. I mean, it's a big single instance, but overall, the administration is not deporting more people. What he's
well, certainly than Obama, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he has a long way to go to get to where Obama was, which
Yeah.
is no one's talking about that now. I talked about it all the time when Obama was doing it. But yeah, he's still the record holder for most deportations by any president is Barack Obama. I think, and I know Trump didn't even beat him in his first term. He might this time though. He seems on his way. I don't know. We'll see. No, Tom Homan he has eidetic memory on immigration law. Oh, he'll quote it by. Oh, okay. He has like photographic memory of like case law and immigration. Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. I mean, okay. No, he's had a major head injury in his life. There's no doubt about that. But go ahead.
He's the king of the chuds, as we say here.
God.
But
It's tough listening to him. He even said, what do you say? Something like, God, was it agreeance? He like invented a word in the middle of a big interview with one of the like CNN or something. What was it? Agreeance? It was something like it was a non-word and he kept using it over and over again. Oh, it was about AOC. God, what was that? He used a non-word over and over again, like resist.
Like he was on Judge Joe Brown.
It was so fun. I've never seen a government official do that. It was something else. Guy is really impressive. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were saying something important.
Yeah. The number of people whose civil rights are being violated is probably the same. What Trump is doing is making a grand show of it.
It's a redistribution of injustice.
Yeah, and he's getting out in front of it.
Yeah. Yes.
Because he has popular support for it, and it's to impart a democratically popular agenda, which is being hard on crime and hard on illegal immigration.
Yeah, no, it's a redistribution of injustice.
Yeah, and
I mean, just different people are getting screwed over now.
Yes,
and maybe fewer is what you want to say.
Maybe, yeah, I would think
Which
so.
Is possible.
I think the Obama administration had a ton of people being screwed over, like in a way that made absolutely no sense. You had
like, for instance, whistleblowers, right? So not just deportations. So Obama was the record holder for deportations, and I think to this day, I think more whistleblowers have been put in federal prison by Obama than any other president. So
totally,
yeah, that kind of thing.
I mean, you're a marijuana guy.
No, I'm not.
The federal raids on dispensaries in his first administration.
Yeah. All up and down California through his whole administration, he and Eric Holder were raiding these dispensaries right when they were legalizing it here. Why? Obama of the Choom gang in Honolulu. I know he dealt weed at Occidental College. I taught at Occidental College, and it was well known there that he was like the main weed dealer when he was there. Yes. No, it's true. So Trump is just being like Obama. He's just like a white Obama.
Well, he's doing the things that government always does, but he is doing it in a way that benefits the American citizens who elected him. And he's doing it in a widely popular way, and he's not being duplicitous about it. He doesn't have any qualms about it. He's saying, I am in charge. I use force. I was elected to do this. I am hard on crime. I am punishing my enemies and rewarding my friends.
How many ordinary Americans would object to what he just did with the Venezuelans?
Yeah. How many people are losing sleep over
like ordinary
261 gang members being sent to a prison? And by the way, we don't even have to pay for it. El Salvador is paying us to do it.
Right. $6 million. And of the people who are opposed to this, like your faggot friend me.
Yeah, and the people over at Reason Magazine and Institute.
No, it's even like neocons. Even like Bill Kristol's against this.
Oh no, Bill Kristol.
It's the first time I've ever agreed with him on anything. So there you go. Point in your favor. No, I mean I'm saying so among us, right? Among the people who are really mad about this and opposed to it, how many of us are pundits? Journalists, podcasters, wankers, right? I mean, It's the people who are just political junkies of a particular politics.
Yeah.
Which in this case is everyone from, like, I suppose, libertarians to many liberals to neocons. Like, I'm telling you, Bill Kristol's whole YouTube channel, The Bulwark, they're outraged about this.
Mm-hmm.
They're mad, and I'm with them. And that's weird. I've never agreed with them on anything. So
Yeah.
once again, Michael Weimer deconstructs my logic. This is why you should never talk to Nazis. I've told people this again and again. If you actually talk to Nazis, they will fuck you up. I mean, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Weimer.
Again, I'm just like trying to portray the most average working class voter response to this. I'm not.
I know, but
yeah.
but okay, but like average working class voters also voted for Franklin Roosevelt 4 times.
Yeah, they're not without their flaws. Yeah,
I mean, that was the base that elected Franklin Roosevelt the most fascist president in American history until now. I mean, don't you wait? Oh, come on now, listen. Don't you want judicial review? Don't you want separation of powers? Don't you want checks and balances? Don't you want the judiciary having the power to check the executive?
Well, I mean,
don't you want due process? Don't you want the federal government, if it's going to snatch people out of their beds and send them to foreign countries, which aren't even their own foreign countries, don't you want them to show that A, they're not legally residents of this place, and B, that they're criminals? Don't you want to do that? Don't you want them to have to do that? Because again, dude, I'm telling you, it's not far-fetched. They could be, any one of those guys could be could have been born here, and we wouldn't know because they never had a chance. They haven't even announced who they are. They literally snatched them and put them on planes, and the next day or that night, I think they were in the El Salvadorian prison.
Yeah.
So we don't even know their names. They could have been born here and named Joe Smith. They could even be, and this will really get you pissed off, they could even be white. Like, imagine that. Like, white people being.
Look, race is a total construct to me. I don't really see race.
That would piss me off. If they put a white guy in a prison like that, I'd be like, wow. Anyway,
your words, not mine. So, okay, I have all right, there's the thing about judicial review. I would be in favor of judicial review if we didn't have a century of activist judges basically being the legislature on things, and I'm including Miranda versus Arizona on this. I'm including the popular will of the people, who they democratically elected their legislators. Activist judges coming out of law schools have gone against their will time after time after time after time to create the liberal milieu, cultural milieu that we have today.
Sure. I mean, there's been plenty of conservative judges too, but yes, I mean, that fight has gone on inside the judiciary. No, there have been, under Reagan and since Reagan, there were many, many conservative judges placed. Bush, all of them. Each president puts a bunch of a bunch of judges in.
Well,
it's been but yes, sure, there have been. You're not wrong. There have been left-wing activist judges who have ruled because of their politics much more than the Constitution.
Yeah. Right? Trump posted a Truth Social the other night. Why is it that we always know how the liberal judges are going to vote, but we have to guess how the conservative judges are going to vote? The conservative judges have been consistently less ideological and have been with the establishment with the liberal judges quite a bit. But I'm talking about gay marriage, for example. Hugely, hugely, hugely unpopular for the last 100 years. It only switched in the last 15 years. And Proposition 8 in California, for example, banning gay marriage, passing by popular vote in California, and a liberal judge overturns it in 2010-ish, right? You have Obergefell, reading the 14th Amendment in 2015 to say that gay marriage is legal everywhere in all 50 states. Roe versus Wade, legalizing abortion in all 50 states. like massive unpopular things are being codified into law, including Miranda rights. Like if you polled American citizens, hey, should we read the Constitution to violent criminals when they're pulled over and taken in, most people would be against that. And it's led, if you look at charts, you'll see a huge increase in unsolved violent crime after Miranda versus Arizona became into practice. So on social issues, these things have not been decided by democracy. They've been issued by judicial fiat against the popular wishes of the American people every single time. That's my problem with this judicial review thing. Is it's always gone in one direction, and it's like all the old laws of the past that were socially conservative. You've had judges reading civil rights law and then putting their own interpretation of these things to get rid of popular understood laws on these issues.
Yeah. Another really, really intelligent racist and homophobic argument.
I'm just pro-democracy. That's all I am.
And anti-gay, but yeah. No, it's a great argument.
And who are the people in California who supported Proposition 8? It was a largely black constituency in California who wanted to keep traditional marriage as the law there. Yeah.
Or, well, black voters overwhelmingly supported it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. True. Yes. Okay. So the argument I have against that, which, you're right to a large extent. I do think there's been plenty of conservative judges who have ruled in the opposite direction, but yes, there've been a whole lot of liberal judges. Only
recently to undo the 50 plus years of liberal judge dominance in the.
Yeah, man. But listen, here's the thing. You come from an anti-statist background, right? Mm-hmm. Politically, didn't you start out as an anti-statist?
Yeah, but I mean, you got it. That's just a depressing way to live.
No, okay. Well, but do you still think government should be limited? Do you still generally always push toward reducing the size and power of government?
Yeah, but the most effective way to do that is with the pocketbook. But
well, yeah, but another way to do it, another way to restrain the government from acting is to have a powerful judiciary that can stop the executive from executing what it thinks is the law. And so and it doesn't even matter whose politics occupy which house. Mm-hmm. If there's a Democrat in the White House and the Supreme Court's all Republican, it doesn't matter, or vice versa. Less will be done by the U.S. state than if we didn't have a judiciary with that power. Right? It's like that's
theory,
why that's why anti-statists like me love it when there's gridlock, when there's divided Congress, when there's Democrats and Republicans sort of equal power, right?
Yes.
No one can get anything done, and that's why those administrations, like Trump, like the first Trump, right? The first Trump, nothing got done. Good. I mean, now.
Well, the deep state was still allowed to govern through Trump, and we armed Ukraine, for instance, and things kept going as normal.
In general, I would like presidents to have less power.
Yeah.
I'd like everyone to have less power. And so if they're fighting each other, if they're blocking each other over issues like this, that's just generally a net win for an anti-statist like me.
I understand. Yeah.
Okay.
The problem is, in practice, the judicial review has been in place recently to save the bureaucracy. So to slow down DOJ from firing the bureaucracy.
Yep.
And it's been, and then for the rights of illegal immigrants, hypothetically. And it hasn't proved itself in protecting American citizens from Black Lives Matter protesters destroying their cities, hasn't protected U.S. citizens from COVID tyranny, all that stuff. The COVID tyranny ran through without any judicial review, pretty much. until
Okay.
years later.
So the question is then, would you prefer a government that adheres to your particular ideology, or a
Yes.
government or a government that is structurally confined and restrained from acting in general? And I think I'd prefer the former, or the latter. I think in other words, I'm being pro-American here. I'm being pro-Constitution. I mean it. Like,
yeah,
it's not perfect. It's not, but I do think from that perspective, if you're an anti-statist at all, if you have generally a skeptical or negative or hostile set of feelings about government and the state generally, I think the US Constitution is probably your best model. And in particular, because of the checks and balances, right? Because they compete, the three branches compete against each other and are often at war with each other, which basically just shuts down the whole system, which is good because we want less coming out of the US government, don't we? Just in general, we want less legislation.
yeah.
Ron Paul, the only good congressman ever.
Mhm.
And I'm not a libertarian, but if I were a congressperson, I would vote like Ron Paul. He was known as what? What was it called? Dr. No.
Dr. No. Thomas Massey has inherited that now.
Yeah, I mean, but I think Paul, I think he literally voted no on every single bill before him, or almost every single bill. So in other words, he just stopped everything from happening. Like, that's what he was doing. Just, he didn't want the government to act at all. And I think that's the right attitude.
Agreed.
And so I prefer that to a government that can get things done on its own terms. Because again, you might like Donald Trump and all of his ambitions for all the brown and black people of the world and all the other things you like about him. But if the executive, and this is what he's doing now, this is the worst thing he's doing now, the precedents, right, for executive power, unilateral power, they call it unitary theory of the executive. That's their thing. What happens when Gavin Newsom is president with that power? What happens when, God forbid, Kamala Harris is, or someone worse? I mean, like an actual communist, an actual fascist, then they will be able to run roughshod and do all this stuff with no opposition whatsoever. So the precedent's terrible too, man. Like, the classical liberal constitutionalist point of view is actually very important and valuable for someone who is libertarian or left wing, because it stops the government. It just keeps this permanent, eternal check on government power generally, which is what you want. You want that structure to remain. If the judiciary of the United States ceases to be an equal branch of government in this country, I'm scared. I'm scared because that means the president can do damn near anything to me.
Well, I think the judicial branch has superseded its authority. It has taken over. So basically, the legislative branch has abdicated its responsibility by being completely incompetent and divided, and that their responsibility has been taken up by the executive through the bureaucracy and through all the emergency powers that have been given since the Patriot Act to now. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the judicial branch doing wide sweeping rulings that are way beyond their authority. And
but they're not, but they can't legislate. They're not creating law. They're only knocking down law.
They are effectively law. when you are
they're only
Roe versus Wade.
Only block it. They can only block law, which you can argue that's unconstitutional. That's an interesting argument too, but they can't legislate, right? There's no law created by the Supreme Court. All they can do is get in the way of law. They can maybe succeed in modifying the law, forcing Congress to modify law. They can stop it altogether, but they can't create law. That's what's great about the judiciary, and that's why it's much better than the Congress, right?
In theory, but not in practice. Like,
how have they created law? How have they created law?
Gay marriage and abortion. Like, in practice, legalizing abortion in all 50 states, and in practice, making gay marriage the law of the land in all 50 states. And that comes from a really
yes, I suppose that ends up. Yes, I grant you that. That in some cases they are able to, because Roe versus Wade forced states to make it legal, to make abortion legal, right?
Yeah.
By saying that, making it illegal is unconstitutional, right? So, sure. But in general, that's not how they operate, and that's not the power granted to them. I mean, that's a good argument against Roe v. Wade, by the way, which was also overturned for a very, I think a great decision. Hobbes, right, granting the power to the states, which again, that's what the Supreme Court generally does. The New Deal, like Roosevelt's New Deal, like the whole thing was broken in half in 1935 with the Schechter decision. And all it said was, you can't do this shit. You can't have this corporatist, fascist economic model where the federal government is dictating how many chickens, this is what the case was in Brooklyn, how many chickens this guy can produce per year, right? That's how granular the New Deal regime was in dictating the economy. It's generally negative in a good way, right? Negative toward lawmaking, which is what we want, I think, generally speaking. So the structure is a pretty good one, actually, from an anarchist perspective. The structure of the Constitution, it's not perfect. It'd be better to have no Constitution, I suppose. But from an anarchist, like a hardcore anarchist, anti-statist perspective, the U.S. Constitution is probably the best model we can have, or we do have on Earth, where the government is sort of fighting against each other, but against itself internally all the time.
When has the Supreme Court judge ever said, "Hey, that war that you're fighting that you never declared, that's an unconstitutional war. You need to stop fighting that war"? Like, when has
never? No, the Supreme Court's been terrible. Not just that, but the Supreme Court, as I've said many times, has, if you look at the history of it, during every single war in American history, which is a lot of war, so it's a lot of time. In every single war, the Supreme Court said the Bill of Rights is suspended. And so Lincoln, Wilson, Roosevelt, Kennedy, Johnson, Bush have all locked up dissidents, have all locked up media outlets that were, dissident. They've totally banned particular speech, habeas corpus, people in prison throughout the war, all kinds of attacks on speech. Supreme Court has allowed it every single time. So you're right. Yeah. But does that mean we should abandon the judiciary as an equal part of government?
I kind of have the Lysander Spooner argument on this, is that it has failed to execute on that promise, and so it is either complicit or insufficient, or whatever is the phrasing that Spooner uses to talk about the Constitution and the federal government. I see that the judiciary hasn't served that purpose. It hasn't been a limited measure review. It's been something that usually enforces or gives legitimacy to the worst things that the executive branch does. And then it also is a tool of the left to pass widely unpopular legislation, or to,
So, but wait, just in general, no, really, the structure of the government you live under, don't you want it to be divided or not? You want it to be unitary or divided? Do you want there to be one branch, the executive, and he has mostly unilateral power? He can declare war. He can levy taxes. He can appropriate funds to make projects, to build dams and public works projects. He can, we're getting fundamental stuff here. I mean, this is why classical liberals, almost overwhelmingly, and libertarians have favored the U.S. constitutional form of government over others, because again, it makes it more difficult to be totalitarian, authoritarian. It makes it more difficult to launch, vast public works projects that employ or enslave millions of people and change the speech regime if the president deems that we're in war, and all the things, right? I mean, that
the greatest
autocratic regimes, right?
Well, the greatest living libertarian philosopher, Hans Hermann Hoppe, who wrote Democracy, the God That Failed, argued, obviously that a monarchy, that in his mind, anarchy is ideal. Democracy is a failed system, has tons and tons of flaws, and monarchy is closer to the ideal than democracy is. And the classical arguments that the founding fathers had, where they critique democracy, saying that it turns everybody into a tyrant. I pretty much agree with them on principle. Hoppe would say that a monarchy, this is Yarvin stuff as well, that somebody who is like a CEO of the country, a monarchy, has some ownership in the country, has more of a, because he doesn't have term limits, he has a longer term view of the future welfare of the country. If he has kids that will inherit it, he wants it to do well for them. It's not a 4-year get in, get out, exploit the system as much as possible thing. So you see, Putin and Xi making much more calculated and measured and rational long-term plans for their countries. And over here, you've got $36 trillion of debt. But the other thing is that if you only have one person in charge, you have one person that everybody knows is accountable. So if you're angry with the government, you're angry with one human being and you know who he is, if it's the monarchy. If it's a bureaucracy and if it's divided responsibility, diffused thing, nobody knows quite how it works, then everybody is part of the tyranny and nobody can actually shave it down at all. There's a diffused responsibility and a diffused understanding of how things work.
Damn.
But, we read at the Academy, we read Romans by Paul last night, the first epistle to the Romans. And my personal opinion is I'm just going to comply with the state, whatever it is. Being an enemy of the state causes a lot of harm on your life. You can live a much more interiorly free life if you comply with the state, no matter what it is. And yeah, I think just being a regular citizen who supports whatever's happening makes life a lot simpler than being a revolutionary.
This is Curtis Yarvin, right?
Yeah.
This is the Yarvin argument.
Yeah.
Which is a strong one, a powerful one, which is that life is better if you just submit to authority.
Yeah.
And man, I challenge everyone listening to this, watching this, to think about that. Is that wrong? I mean, I think just empirically, it's right. The slaves in the American South who complied and submitted and believed that they should have been slaves, which was a majority, by the way, a large majority believed that they should have been slaves. No one talks about that, but it's true. It's hard to argue that they lived worse lives than the ones who were rebellious. In fact, a lot of evidence suggests just the other way around. People who live in dictatorships, are they really less happy than people who live in America and get to vote? I don't think so. The evidence is not at all clear on that. In fact, it tends to run in the opposite direction.
Well,
if you are not, just think about just the logic of it. The rationality of Curtis's argument is pretty strong, which is, the rebels, the revolutionaries, the insurgents, the critics, the dissidents, look at us. Do we look happier? No, of course not. Because we're always fighting, and we're always fighting those who are more powerful than us, and we're always fighting those who have power over us, meaning that they can punish us and hurt us, and we can't hurt them. And we spend our whole lives. I'm talking about the American left. I'm talking about all people who are political, right wingers too. That's the life you live, and believe me, I know about that life. I've known it for years. I've known many people in this life, and it's terrible. It's terrible. Those who are not political, like in America, people who don't think about politics the way that we do, you could argue that they are compliant with power, right? They don't challenge the laws. They don't think about things. If they get pulled over by the cops, they don't complain. They follow the law, whatever it is. They don't question it. Look around. Your non-political neighbors and friends. the people you know who are not political, compare them to the people you know who are political. You cannot argue, you cannot claim to me that political people are more happy. The rebellious people are more happy. No. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for monarchy.
Yeah.
Yarvin has a point.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet, but I mean, it's a good argument. That's all.
I want to
Yes.
deal with the system as it is in all practicality, because the Constitution has been dead for a long, long time. Like, as great as the Constitution is, we're $36 trillion in debt. There's like Constitution 2.0 with the Civil War, and there's Constitution 3.0 with the Civil Rights Movement, and there's Constitution 4.0 with the Patriot Act and everything after that.
Well,
And,
I mean, the ability to declare war, right? I mean, that's the big, for me, that's the big one, since it's been completely abrogated since Korea.
Yeah.
Since we've had no declaration of war since Korea, since World War II. And yet we've been waging massive wars all across the globe with no congressional declaration of war. Amazing. So yeah, what is the Constitution exactly at this point? I agree.
Yeah. And
so,
well, and this is the thing: the people who are bringing, by and large, the people who are finally complaining about the Constitution are people like Bill Kristol, who have ignored the Constitution when it's to support their wars, and now they're doing it because they want to appear. They want to they appear anti-racist against the interests of working class voters. They want to feel like they're good people who care about brown people, when Bill Kristol really doesn't care about brown people being sent to a camp in El Salvador. He just doesn't like that Trump isn't funding his wars. That's what it boils down to.
So the choice is between some leader, some autocratic leader, punishing people, exerting power over people, oppressing people based on his own caprice and whim, sort of like what Trump is doing, maybe. So there's that damage, there's that badness. Then there's the demos, the people, democracy, the majority making such decisions. Right. And generally speaking, how many people have been negatively affected when the demos, the majority of it in a democracy, have had negative feelings about some group of people or some individual? You could make a very solid argument that the damage done, the oppression, if you just measure it, far greater by democracies than by autocracies. Autocracies tend to be like Trump, right? Very concerned with, personal slights. There's revenge motives clearly with Trump, like challenges to his authority. Those particular people tend to get punished or have been punished. But in democracies, entire classes get demonized. Entire social groups get demonized. Now, you could say that with Trump, that applies maybe to immigrants generally, maybe to Muslims generally, but democracies hate entire nations, movements, races, ethnicities, genders, and left and right. But yeah, the punishment meted out by democracies is probably far greater, just if you measure it, than the punishment meted out by dictatorships. I think that's a solid argument.
And I mean, okay. Yeah, it's just this instance of Trump. I'm just like, we've had no constitution for a long time, and we've had widely anti-popular. Well, okay, I never mind.
What?
Well, you've had no concern for the Constitution when it comes to the COVID lockdowns, when it comes to the riots, when it comes to the wars, when it comes to surveillance, when it comes to and I think gay marriage and abortion being nationalized is the same thing. That's the 10th Amendment. Like those are that's state sovereignty. I think the federal government, by bureaucratic and judicial fiat, has passed widely socially changing and unpopular things down the state's throats. But you've had no constitution. You had blatant disregard for the Constitution by these people until now on the immigration issue, and now on the Doge issue, where they want to save the bureaucracy and they want to protect the civil rights of people who may not even have rights because they aren't even citizens. So,
agreed.
That's why Trump may turn out to be an awful president. That remains to be seen, but I'm gonna let him cook on this one, because it's the first time we have had an outsider out for blood getting things done in the name of a widely popular sentiment behind him. And when you see people who are authoritarian like this, like Bukele and Putin, they are overwhelmingly popular in their own countries. Bukele is the most popular. Putin is the second most popular in the world. And the rest is you just have a fake liberal consensus of globalist imperialism everywhere else that is incredibly unpopular, yet nobody knows how it continues its power. So I'm going to let him cook for a while. I'm going to give him 6 to 18 months. I might criticize him after that, but yeah, especially after the COVID regime, I'm very much just out for blood and revenge. And I'm going to let him cook.
That's the best argument I've heard.
Yeah.
For what Trump's doing, meaning for fascism. It's the best argument I've heard for this. What do you call it? A healthier,
more transparent form of fascism. We can all see what he's doing. He's not hiding it. And he's not getting a Nobel Peace Prize for nothing. He's actually trying to end wars. He's trying to improve the material situation for his actual citizens. And he's trying to reduce the size of government. He's the first person to actually address spending at a practical level. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Let me throw in another little monkey wrench here. An analysis I just heard today by someone I usually don't like, but this really caught my attention. Jeet here, his name is Jeet here. He's a liberal lefty journalist, been around forever. He called me a racist about 10 years ago for something.
It doesn't feel good, right? When you get called a racist, it doesn't feel good, right? It kind of hurts.
Oh, no. Nah. Well, it depends on who.
Okay.
Depends on who. I apologize for calling you a racist all these times, all these 5,000 times. He writes for The Nation now, which is kind of like, it has been the leading left liberal magazine in the United States since 1865. So, that's who he is. Anyway.
Yeah.
But he has a theory about Trump's foreign policy, which I thought was pretty interesting, which is that it is what he calls autarkic imperialism, and autarky, autarky, was kind of a big term being used in like the early 20th century by Japan, by Germany after the Nazis took control, by Italy. Their mission was to make themselves self-sufficient economically. So kick out the foreign influences, the immigrants, the Jews, the American traders, exporters, all the foreign products and people and ideas, kick them out and make ourselves self-sufficient. So in Japan and Germany, that was really difficult because Japan's this volcanic island with no natural resources, and Germany, compared to many people in many countries in Europe, is fairly small and doesn't have all the resources it needed. So Jeet here, in solid argument, argues that Japan, Germany, autarkic regimes that don't have incredible resources like the United States does, have had to, because of that ideology of autarky, have had to become imperialist, have had to go with Japan, have had to go out and conquer Manchuria, very famously. Japan took over Manchuria in the 1930s very brutally to get its wheat fields and its labor and all the resources in Manchuria, which were immense. The Nazis in the 1930s, and I'm writing about this now, they found out that they had no copper, or they knew that they had no copper in Germany. It's like one of the natural resources isn't available there. So they had to go out and like seize and conquer pieces of parts of Eastern Europe, to get the copper where they had copper. So importing anyway. So autarky leads to imperialism of that kind, like a resource extraction, non-ideological imperialism. It's not about like uplifting the world and like being the world's policeman or any of that bullshit.
You can't trade, so you have to conquer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely. So now he's mapping that lineage onto Trump, which might be true. It's not clear yet. Like today or yesterday, I heard Trump.
Well, the minerals deal. If the minerals deal goes through, that would support his case.
Yeah. No, for sure. But I did hear, but he's saying that Trump is not interested in trade with other countries, and that's what I'm not sure about, because today he was talking about Putin being wanting to trade, and which to me, I just started like clapping. That's all I want to hear from American politicians. But it's an open question, and so if you say that we are not going to take any imports from China, from Russia, from Canada, from Mexico, from Europe, well, then we do need to make sure that we have all the resources we have here. So that means we might need to invade and conquer Greenland. And that might mean we have to control the Panama Canal. And Canada, my God, dude, Canada, Jesus, Trump is insane. He was on Laura Ingraham, was it today or yesterday, saying, again, he said this before, but again, I just can't believe him. He says, no, I just think Canada should be the 51st state. Not even that should be. He says, I think it is the 51st state. I mean, okay, but like that's, like that's rank, clear imperialism, but it's of a different sort than the liberal globalist imperialism that we've been living under for 150 years. It's a different kind of imperialism, but here's argument is a solid one, which is that if you want to be autarkic like Trump does, I think, self-sufficient, you're going to need probably to expand your territory to gain the resources that you're missing here. Now, fortunately, the US has more resources than probably any other nation state on earth. So we have to do less of the conquering, but still, it makes sense that Trump, one of his first initiatives was to announce that we're going to seize all this territory around the United States.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah. Other people have seen that as a return to the Monroe Doctrine. And the United States is no longer the world police. It's now the hemisphere police.
Right. That's what I saw.
Yeah.
That's what I saw. But he's making it's a more developed argument about what that kind of politics entails.
And demands
that it actually requires territorial expansion and a different form of imperialism, right? An imperialism to conquer. Trump's always talking about oil. He's like, why did we invaded Iraq and we didn't even get the oil?
Yeah.
Right. Ukraine, we invested all this money in that war. We're not even getting the rare earth minerals from there, right? It's a solid argument. His attempt to connect it to the history of American foreign policy is not as successful. I think Trump is still kind of sui generis in a lot of ways. He's still the first and only president to think in this particular way. But yeah, I do think that the autarkic ambitions of Trump necessitate some kind of territorial expansion, which it sure is interesting.
Well, the thing is, the things that we need imported, for the most part, are like either it's stuff made in China, like stuff like Apple iPhones from Chinese factories. So working with Chinese factories, or it's imports that are fine imports that are typically enjoyed by our liberal cultural elites and necessary for the survival of the working class and don't align with the tastes of the working class. Like agriculturally, the United States could sustain itself on its own food.
True.
Yeah. So I don't see the demand for that happening quite yet necessarily. And I also see him making efforts to bring auto manufacturing to the United States. A Honda plant coming to Ohio soon, hopefully, and Honda hopefully making a new model at their Indiana plant in the next coming years. He kind of overpromised on that at his address. But Tesla being manufactured in the United States. So, yeah, if auto manufacturing comes back and if we're able to figure out chips and things that we like, technology that we want to produce in the United States, regardless for national security reasons, the things that are being produced in Taiwan factories, like all the supercomputer chips or whatever, then I think we're going to be okay. Like, as you said, the United States is pretty rich on resources. I would not be surprised, though, if Trump does capitalize and conquers the entire hemisphere formally with the Panama Canal and Greenland and everything. But I don't. Again, I have to wait for him to actually act on that for me to take it super seriously. I think he's just formalizing our influence that we already have in that region by calling things the Gulf of America and throwing rhetorical jabs to upset people, but we'll see.
The best arguments I've heard for Trump, dude. I swear to God. No, this is great. I mean, you're making me think. In fact, you've kind of like stopped me in my tracks a bit. I just want people to think about this, but there's a lot at stake here.
Yeah.
And much of this is we just don't know, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. Like, and for instance, the big key for me is Trump really not into trade with other countries? That's actually debatable. I'm not sure. He's not said that. He has just said he wants to lower he wants to equalize the tariff or make it fair, the tariff regime, make it fair, so that we can trade. And that's how he sounded when he was talking about Putin today or yesterday, about how Putin wants to trade, and that's a good thing, which is the best thing we could hear. So we'll see. But
when he's introduced tariffs, he said, these people have 60% tariffs on us. We have to fight them back with our own tariffs. So
sure.
Yeah.
If that's all it is, as I said last week, I think, if it's just a war to equalize the playing field in international trade so that America can trade more easily, then fine. If that works, sure. I mean, I'm fine with that. If the end goal is more trade, then this is what I want. Jeet here thinks that Trump is ideologically committed against international trade. And I don't know. That his whole argument kind of hinges on that.
Yeah.
And that's an open question. We'll see. We'll see.
And that's the thing is, like, I also remember living through the first Trump administration where we were promised concentration camps and we were promised nuclear war. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And what we got was just hijinks, ineffectual government for 4 years, and rule by deep state, and a third Obama administration that followed it. So he's attempting to be different for the first time, and I think we need to give him the chance to do that and then evaluate it once he's done it. But he might not even do it, and his hands have been tied quite a bit still.
I just hope he doesn't. I just hope ICE doesn't show up to my house and say, "What did you say? You said some pro-Hamas things on your podcast."
Yeah. Well,
we're taking you to the airport.
I think it's safe.
I mean,
to
I have
say
a passport. Like, I can prove that I'm an American citizen, but like, not before they take me to the airport. Like, I don't have my passport. I think it's in the garage, and I don't have my I don't have my social security card right here.
Yeah.
They come in and they put a gun in your face and they put you in a car and they take you to the airport. And then I'm in a Bukele prison breaking rocks. I mean, dude, honestly, is that not the precedent set here? He can do that now. He just did it. We don't know who those guys are.
We don't know. We don't know.
They could be white boys from Indiana with German heritage. They could be on the. I mean, really.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could be just a gay hairdressers from Houston with a neck tattoo,
mm-hmm.
which apparently, I don't know if this is true, but a lot of people are saying that's one of the guys. Is just
mm-hmm.
like he has nothing to do with a gang, but he had some weird tattoo. And Tren de Aragua, apparently, I've looked this up, I've read about it. They don't do tattoos. They're against tattoos. So this is, and remember Tom Homan, the guy leading all this stuff? Remember about his mental capacity? I think we covered this in an earlier segment.
King Chud, king of the Chuds.
I mean, Jesus, this is the dude making the ultimate decisions, right? Tom Homan is the one who's like, yeah, you do it, you get Venezuela, you're gonna immigrate.
Here's the thing: if they deport a U.S. citizen, if they'd actually deport a U.S. citizen and send him to a prison, that would be a huge international scandal and would go against the entire principle of what they're doing. It's possible that they are incredibly incompetent and that they've done that. I doubt that they would do it intelligent. I doubt that they would actually do that. But, you know, Obama murdered a U.S. citizen with a drone strike. And the judges got away with it. And the judges didn't do anything to stop that. So
completely. Right. Dude, you're getting snatched.
Yeah.
Okay. You're getting snatched up by ICE because you know what? We know about your connections to the German Bund.
Bund?
The German Bund.
Yeah.
And they're still around. The pro-Nazi German. No. I mean, maybe. I don't know. There's probably 3 of them somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know, it's not even impossible. No, honestly, there were Germans, as I just told you, in World War II, who were in fact rounded up.
And put in camps in the United States,
for years. Correct. There were Germans exactly like you, because they had bad politics.
Well, or heritage. World War I, it didn't even have to be their politics. In World War I, all the businesses in Indiana that were German owned pretended to not be German. Like they pretended to be Greek and they pretended to be like neutral English as you could be. And just recently in the last 50 years, those places have rebranded as like historical Indiana areas. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
So we got
8
minutes.
8 minutes. Do you want to talk about the drone strikes?
The Jews.
On God. Yeah.
The Jews, of course.
Yeah.
No, the Israelis.
Different
things. Jews and Israelis are different things. Yeah, no, I knew this. I don't know. Like,
this is the biggest legit criticism of Trump is that like he seems to be like, so Netanyahu starts bombing Gaza again after a 2-month ceasefire yesterday, and it looks like Trump is going to meet him tomorrow for a sympathetic, hey, we're on your side, destroy Hamas type meeting.
I don't know what it is about these Zionist propagandists. They get in the heads of people, and they got in the heads of him. I'm sure. Well, they showed him the snuff film of October 7th thing a couple of weeks ago, and people have, speculated that that's why he's gone harder. I don't know. I mean, he clearly was. It could be Jared Kushner, who's like an arch Zionist friend of the Bibi Netanyahu family. I don't know. He's Mike Huckabee. I guess it's the Zionist wing of the Republican Party got into his head. But then again, that's a Republican establishment thing, being pro-Israel, right?
Yeah.
So why is Trump doing that? There's MAGA. We need to have a talk with MAGA. Like everyone needs to have a talk with MAGA about Israel. This is so contradictory to everything they stand for. And they need to understand what's really going on about Israel. I cannot see that sustaining. The real MAGA base, when they find out about what Israel is and what this relationship between the U.S. and Israel has been, I just don't see it continuing.
Well,
it's so obviously contradictory.
Trump comes from a background of New York City real estate and reality television. And I think by his own explicit plans for what to do with Gaza, I think he believes that it's good for business.
Right. It's good for real estate and media.
It's good for real estate
presentation of that plan, right?
Yeah.
That's right. No, man. I know. I'm waiting for Steve Bannon to crack on this. He hasn't yet, but I could see Steve Bannon finally acknowledging that there's a contradiction here. The problem is that Steve Bannon was mentored by Andrew Breitbart, and Breitbart there's this famous photo of the founding of Breitbart in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
There was a meeting they had with Netanyahu in Tel Aviv, which was to announce, I think, the founding of Breitbart, which became, of course, the media basis for the MAGA movement.
In 2015, in 2016,
yeah. I mean, no one disagrees that Breitbart was really the basis for Trump. And it comes right out of Israel and Zionism. So I don't know, but like, it's just such an obvious contradiction, especially now that we don't even need Israel at all for strategic purposes, for economic purposes. We don't get our oil from that part of the world anymore. There's no value gain from having our military there anymore. That's pretty clear to everybody. There is no reason strategically to support Israel going forward. And so I keep hoping, I just keep waiting. Although I see it every day. I see a new MAGA person every day. Roger Stone. Do you see this? Roger Stone? Roger Stone is saying, he's straight up saying that Israel killed JFK.
Oh, great. Well, I thought he was saying
probably stupid, but at least he's anti-Zionist.
I thought the post I saw is that he was saying Nixon told me we all wanted to be president, but LBJ was the only one willing to kill for it. But maybe he was working with Israel. I don't know. But
what Stone is arguing or suggesting, it's pretty clear, is that LBJ was working essentially with Israel, and that he implemented all of what Israel wanted as soon as the Mossad killed JFK. But his main point, it doesn't matter. I mean, the point is he's anti-Israel. Like that's the point.
Yeah.
And he's a central MAGA figure.
Yeah.
Candace Owens.
Very
famously, very militantly anti-Israel, very central MAGA figure.
Yeah.
People like knuckleheads like Theo Vaughn. I mean, he's also kind of moving pretty ineluctably to an anti-Israel position.
Yeah. He had Candace Owens on and Hassan Piker on back to back, and opposite ends of the spectrum, but both populists, popular with young people, and both anti-Israel.
Andrew Tate, hardcore anti-Israel. Jake Shields, complete idiot, but anti-Israel. All of those people have major bases within MAGA.
Well, Tucker is a big one. Tucker.
Well, Tucker's not quite anti-Israel, but he's getting there.
He'll say, I don't know anything about this. I don't really care about it. But can you believe X, Y, and Z? And please, all the foreign policy experts, please come on my show and explain why Israel runs our foreign policy.
Yeah. So, man, when that civil war really takes shape within MAGA around Israel, I'm so there for it. And I think we will have a cleansing of MAGA and a purification of MAGA. This is the kind of language that fascists love.
Yeah.
But no, really, like, get rid of that thing and I will have so much more respect for it.
Yeah.
Because then it will at least be internally coherent. It's coherent. The Israel stuff is so contradictory.
Again, I just think they just flat out have black male power. They just have they know
that somebody diddles kids. Like, is that what you mean?
Yeah, there's the Epstein Mossad stuff for sure, but they are famous for blackmail and assassinations. Mossad is famous
sexual blackmail in particular.
Yeah. And they, AIPAC is, and this donor money is well documented. Just the sheer amount of power that they hold. I'm a little pessimistic about it. I try to be optimistic on most things, but when October 7th happened, I didn't really want to talk about the issue at all. I just wanted to be, it's because I feel like they are an insurmountable mountain of power that just can't be overcome. But one more voice on the MAGA side, Daryl Cooper. He's not explicitly MAGA and he's not explicitly anti-Israel. He's one of the best critics and one of the most measured voices on this. But he was just on Rogan, and yeah. And well, I have some sympathy with him after being maligned as a Hitler lover after last week's episode. Well, I just said his tariff policy was effective.
I didn't say you were a Hitler lover. I said you were a racist.
I know you didn't. You didn't. But
come on, man.
But yeah, Daryl Cooper has had the most measured anti-Israel takes. His series, Fear and Loathing in New Jerusalem, is the most sympathetic read you can get on the Zionist movement, period, and the most sober just take of the reality of that history. And he's been just the best at documenting everything. And I wanted to give air to a point that he's been making recently. Like he shared a video, and he talked about this on Rogan, where he shared a video of a drone in the Ukraine war, a drone about to take out a tank in the Ukraine war. And he said, I'm getting too old for this. My sympathies, I no longer care about who's in the tank. I'm just glad that they're alive. I don't care about the tribal, who's on what side, what that tank is there to do. I'm just glad that the bomb didn't explode in his face and this human being is alive. And that's an instinct that needs to be aired more. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's like, to me, the best form of humanitarianism. And it's also could be construed as biblical. It's the golden rule. I mean, to me, I don't know what Daryl is exactly thinking, but for me, it's just that, if I happen to be born in Gaza, or if I happen to be born in Kiev, and either in Gaza, I'm having bombs rain down on me and I have zero control and my children are dying, or I was born in Kiev as a young man and I've been drafted into this war and I have a 50% chance of getting annihilated by Russian artillery. Yes, this can happen to any of us at any time. And even in America, even though we have these beautiful oceans, as Trump said, between us and the rest of the world, and we have the biggest military in the history of the world, all of that can flip pretty quickly. I mean, there is all of Latin America just to our south, and many of them have not been happy with us. And technology has made those oceans much smaller. We can, planes can cross those oceans much more quickly. And right now, there's no threat. I'm not worried about any country invading us or conquering us anytime soon, but that can change at any moment. I mean, I'm not afraid of China. I think they have no malign intent regarding the United States, but that could change. And so let's maybe think about the golden rule. Like, would we want to be invaded and conquered and oppressed and exploited and bombed and all the rest of it, conscripted, sent to the front lines, our 18-year-old sons sent to the front line? And so I love that. I do love Daryl's move toward empathy. The thing is, he's now directing his empathy toward, in his historical work, German citizens, German people, which he should, and it's very valid, because I just said on Twitter today, I got into a big argument with a bunch of idiots on Twitter today. 90% of the soldiers in the German military in World War II were conscripts. They were slaves. And that people don't see a difference between conscripts and slaves, I just don't get. It's worse than slavery. You're not just being forced to work, you're being forced to fight and die by a state. You have zero choice. You cannot escape that at all. And less than 10% of the German population was ever a member of the Nazi Party. And so this, this collective guilt, collective shame, and then collective punishment meted out on people like the Germans is based on a complete lie.
Yeah.
So,
and he likens Hitler to a domestic abuser. The psychology he gives to Hitler and Jim Jones is very interesting. The hostage hypothesis that he has for both of them, that they were stranded with people that they loved. They were strung out on methamphetamines and were probably suffering from brain-eating STDs.
Literally.
Yeah. Yep. And people act irrationally when they feel like they're backed into a corner with the people they love, and often they kill those people. And just because people hear certain words floating around things doesn't mean that it's a pro anybody argument. It just it's you have to understand before you can do anything about it.
Exactly.
At first.
For me, it's an anti-argument. It's a negative argument. I'm arguing against the propaganda about World War II. I'm arguing against, and most importantly, I'm arguing against all of the foreign policy and domestic policy that has flowed from our narrative, our myths about World War II. Every single war the United States has fought, right? Oh, Korea is Hitler, Vietnam is Hitler, Saddam Hussein is Hitler, Taliban are Hitler, Putin is Hitler, right? Every single war we have fought, the World War II, the myth of World War II has been invoked. And even on domestic politics, right? I mean, Trump, hello, compared to who? For how many years now? Hitler. And all sorts of illegal, immoral, unethical, authoritarian measures were taken against him, trying to put him in prison for hundreds of years, trying to bar him from office, impeaching him twice on base. All of that kind of came from the World War II narrative that this is the new Hitler. And so we've got to do anything we can, anything possible to eliminate him, to annihilate him, like we did with the Nazis. We annihilated them. We killed every one of them.
Yeah. And if you'd just left them alone, chances are they would have done a lot less, probably in both scenarios.
Yes, this is what as you know, this is the World War II course at the Academy. It's the subject of my book, or a major of the forthcoming book I have. Yeah, if the United States had just left, had done nothing, if the West had done nothing to Nazi Germany, it would have dissolved and imploded within less than a year.
Yeah.
And there would have been almost no story about Nazi Germany. It was a completely impossible, self-destructive regime and ideology from the beginning, and it was always imploding. And the only reason it was kept afloat was because of the external pressure by the West threatening military action against the Nazis, who could then use that as justification for strengthening the regime. All right, man, enough with our pro-Hitler, propaganda here.
One thing you keep talking the internal division with MAGA. I just want to document this on the stream. Jeremy Boring is leaving the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire has had several internal conflicts and struggles, and has been struggling to keep up subscriptions since this internal contradiction has been exposed, and many of their popular personalities have left. So that's one point in your favor for this thing finally coming to a head. And the Candace Owens versus Jordan Peterson war that just kicked off. Where Jordan Peterson was a part of a study funded by some groups that had done work with the ADL to examine the negative effects of people like Candace Owens touting anti-Semitic hate, such as the phrase "Christ is King." And this is backfiring very, very much. And a lot of conservative influencers who have been fans of Peterson's for years are finally turning on him and saying, "I thought you were the free speech guy, and here you are going after Christians for the ADL." So
yes,
that it's happening. It's happening step by step. Yeah,
cracks in the edifice. Finally, good. Yeah, I love that. I got to check that out. All right, we got to go, man.
Yep,
it's late, and we got our meeting, our after show for patrons, where we hang out on Zoom after Unreported every week. And if you want to join us, just become a patron. Super cheap, but you should support the show anyway. Go to patreon.com/unregistered. And everybody listening to me right now, just do that right now. It's $5 a month. Who cares? Big deal. And you love us. You know that you love this show. You know you need us to continue. And we're just going to go on strike. Okay, I'm just announcing it right now. Starting next week, Michael and I are not going to do the show anymore unless every single one of you gives us $5 a month. So go to patreon.com/unregistered. You can come and hang out at the after show and yell at me or talk to Michael, which is more interesting anyway. Or you can just, feel good about making this amazing show continue. Everyone knows it's the best and most important show on the internet in American politics. So I think, that seems like an obvious case for supporting it. So do that. Patreon.com/unregistered. Michael, you are the man.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, you fucking upend my ideas and make me think hard, and I hate that. No, I love it. That's why you're here. Yes, sir.
Before we go, the thread about the Tesla vandal in Brooklyn, there was along with these string of crimes of liberals vandalizing Teslas. Somebody vandalized a Tesla with a swastika, and
subtle.
Yeah. The owner of the Tesla was shocked because he was Jewish, and he's like, "Oh my goodness, this is a hate crime. This is a horrible hate crime." But the assailant's lawyer defended him by saying, "My client is also Jewish." So,
well, the thing is that Jews can be Nazis. I just want to say that, but okay. Fine. All right, man.
Yeah.
God bless Elon. I hope his company, I hope his business survives. I mean, Tesla stock is plummeting constantly.
It's the most overinflated stock to begin with, though. It might just be
completely
coming to normal.
Completely supported and subsidized by the government, by the way.
Yeah.
Elon's empire.
Yeah. It's the original meme stock. Also, it's popular because it's popular. It's
exactly that is based. You are the based king. All right, we gotta go, man.
Yep.
Go to patreon.com/unregistered. Become a member, become a patron. You'll enjoy it. You'll feel good, and we'll feel great. So I suggest you do that. Thank you very much, Michael.
Yep.
You're the man. See you soon.
We're out.